Well, I think there is one thing about the negotiating mandate which is fundamentally unacceptable, and that is that it strays as a whole from the New Year's Eve framework agreement. And look, what we're not going to do is to renegotiate, relitigate the issues that we've already dealt with in the context of the negotiation with Spain by now having to re-argue all of those things with the European Union. So whether it's in the absence of the reference to Frontex actually being the ones who are going to discharge the functions at Gibraltar Airport and Gibraltar Port alongside the BCA, or whether it's all of the material that they've put in which is entirely unacceptable in the context of visas, asylum seekers, long-term residents, short-term residents, all of that, which frankly is a million miles away from what is even imaginably negotiable, let alone agreeable for the government of Gibraltar. All of that, I think, is the reason why Dominic Raab and I have taken the view, the government of the United Kingdom and the government of Gibraltar, that we're going to say that this is not a basis for the negotiation of a treaty.
During your budget address yesterday, you mentioned Gib exit. So what could happen? Could we crash out any time?
We have to understand that this is, of course, a process, and the process that culminated in the TCA was one which saw many cliff edges, many highs of likely agreement, many lows of likely disagreement and absence of arrangement. So we have to understand that the government is going to always be working very closely, hand in glove with the government of the United Kingdom, to ensure that we provide the best possible outcome in the context of the things that are negotiable and which we are prepared to put on the table, and in the context of the things that we are never going to put on the table and are never going to be negotiable. So look, it's time now for cool heads, despite the hot temperatures of the summer, so that we can progress through and ensure that there is the best possible outcome for Gibraltar in this context.
Well, a very disappointing read, because the idea of a treaty seemed encouraging, and now we're suddenly faced with a hard Brexit again.
Well, remember that in everything that the government have said, we have expressed both the optimism that we will be able to do a treaty and the enthusiasm for it, and the realistic assessment that we might not be able to do a treaty, and that's why the Deputy Chief Minister has been chairing the No Negotiated Outcome Board with Minister for Europe Wendy Morton, because we've always continued the work of preparing for the possibility that there might not be a treaty. Because if what's in the treaty, or what is proposed to go into the treaty, which is what the mandate is about, is unacceptable to us, we just won't go down that road. I mean, I've read some nonsense about people saying, oh, the government is sold out, this is it, etc., etc. All of that has come to a screeching halt when people have seen that, faced with this mandate by the European Union, the government has said, well, look, we're not prepared to negotiate a treaty on that basis. Exactly the same as the United Kingdom and the government of Gibraltar, because we're working so closely together, we're working really hand in glove together, and we're going to ensure that we continue to work together through to the best possible outcome for Gibraltar.
Some of the things that the draft mandate, Spain controlling the borders is the obvious one, as you say, no mention of Frontex, but there are aspects that threaten our business model. It imposes VAT on services, no new Cat 2s. In fact, Spain would dictate who gets to live on the rock. So where does this come from?
Let me just be very clear. All of that is just entirely unacceptable. It doesn't get off the ground. It's not going to be anywhere near what the government of Gibraltar is ever going to be prepared to agree. We see a treaty with the European Union as an opportunity to rocket boost our business, the business that we offer in Main Street and the business that we offer internationally as services. If what the European Union puts on the table is going to do the opposite, then we're not going to do the deal. But let's be very clear, the 15,000 cross-frontier workers who come into Gibraltar of all European nationalities come to work and enjoy the prosperity that is created by commerce in Gibraltar. If you kill commerce in Gibraltar, you kill those 15,000 jobs too. What we want to do is create more prosperity, not less. This is a mandate, if it were to become a treaty, which it will never become a treaty whilst I am Chief Minister and whilst the GSLP Liberals are in government, because we would never agree it, for shared poverty, not for shared prosperity. So this is not going to progress. This is a stillborn mandate, which is not going to be anywhere near what the government of Gibraltar and the government of the United Kingdom would be prepared to see in a treaty. This does not present a possibility for a negotiated outcome, which is a treaty in the form that we had proposed under the New Year's Eve agreement. There's a lot of work to be done on the Spanish and European side to turn this around in order to deliver what they said to their people they would deliver, which was the shared prosperity that we can have under the New Year's Eve agreement framework, which the government of Gibraltar remains completely committed to, and the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, on behalf of the government of the United Kingdom, has reaffirmed the United Kingdom is committed to.